So, in getting ready to give birth for the first time, the main thing I remember doing is reading and asking a lot of questions. I read Ina May Gaskin's Guide to Childbirth, and that was recommended to me by the midwives at my previous practice, by Christine, and by lots of moms that I knew. I have one friend who is now a mom of 4, and also a doula, and so I was really going to her a lot with any question that came to mind. I wanted to know, how was I going to know if labor was starting? What do I do if I find out that it's starting? How long do I wait to tell somebody that I think things are going? What's a false alarm? What's worth really taking seriously? And she was so great. Shout out to Marika. Answering my questions day or night. Marika and Christine were both they kind of put themselves on call for me, which was such a blessing because neither of them had to answer my 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock text messages. I was just trying to put things out there as soon as I thought of them so that I wouldn't forget, not expecting a response until the next day, and they usually fired something away right off if they had an answer for me. And it just put me at ease a lot. After reading Ina May's Guide to Childbirth, I started and finished it probably like 3 weeks before having Haddon. And after reading it, I felt more knowledgeable about what things were called, about terms, and I definitely had a pretty good grasp on how important relaxing was going to be. There's a huge emphasis in the book and from my friends about creating an environment where I could get relaxed if I wasn't able to start off that way. And that included everything from the smells, the candles, who's present, who's not, where I am. Also part of the reason why I chose a home birth, because I'm super comfortable at home. I find it easy to get comfortable at home, and also choosing to make all the preparations to have a water birth here at home. Anytime I was cramping before, my go-to was always to get in a really, really warm bath, and my cramps were pretty severe for years, and either going to sleep or getting in a really warm bath were the only two things that ever really gave me any kind of comfort. So I figured, with labor being like the Olympics of cramping, a really big pool full of water was destined to be of some sort of benefit to me. Aside from that, in prepping for labor physically, I didn't do much other than walking a lot. We live in a pretty hilly neighborhood, so I just did my best to walk in the summer. Tried not to pick times that weren't really wise for a large pregnant woman to be walking around by myself, but I did a good bit of walking and ate a lot of leafy greens. I was looking at recipes to make kale chips, and I was getting the superfood salad from Chick-fil-A and just pumping myself full of as many leafy greens as I could get down, because Christine told me that it was really going to help me avoid tearing as much as possible, which I was terrified of tearing. Terrified. I also prepped some padsicles, where you mix together some witch hazel and then some essential oils that are soothing, like lavender, I really only use lavender on my padsicles. I put them on those giant absorbent maxi pads that I got from Walmart. Stuck those in the freezer to use in case I needed a little help with healing or getting comfortable after delivery. I also prepared one meal. I was told to prepare maybe several for during the labor and definitely for after. Just making sure there's nourishment for me and all the changes that my body were going to be reverting back from. I only actually prepared a dish of enchiladas, but that was helpful because my mom and sister were in town, so they had something to eat, didn't have to worry about leaving to go anywhere once things got started. I actually also made this really cool like corn salsa bean dip that I wanted everyone to be dipping into while I was in labor, but once those contractions hit, I kind of forgot about it. And once everything was said and done and everybody was gone, we found it in the fridge. And I was sad because it was delicious, and I really wanted everyone to see that I had put a lot of thought into prepping for this labor, and I wanted them to be as comfortable as I was trying to be. Wanted it to feel like everybody's home while we were waiting on little man. What else? I also loaded up on Depends. I had a crazy amount of Depends because I had heard that no one ever has enough of the mesh underwear, and then I bought extra pads and liners for the bed for anything that might happen at night while I'm sleeping or anything. I wanted to be over prepared if I was going to be prepared at all, because the Lord knew I had no idea what I was in for after having the baby, and I wasn't going to be in a hospital, so if anyone was going to go get something that I needed, and if it was urgent, they were going to have to go all the way to the store, and I was going to be a little minute. So to avoid all that, I just took a few shopping trips beforehand and gathered on my pads, loaded up on extra towels, which was really helpful for cleanup, and not having to worry about washing a whole bunch of stuff that now had labor birthness all over it. We could just toss them and keep it moving, because life definitely needed to be pretty simple for a while, right before, definitely during, and after giving birth. I felt really prepared when the time came to have Haddon as far as supplies goes. The birth kit that I had everything that I needed, or at least it seemed to. We definitely didn't have to send anybody out for anything, and I knew that physically, if I wasn't prepared, that I was going to have the help of a doula. And then mentally and emotionally, I knew I was not completely prepared, but I had the support that I was going to need to get me there once I got to the point where I reached my limit and my maximum ability to carry myself through all of it. Having my mom and my sister, my husband, Christine, and my doula, shout out to Shakana Haley, having them there, I definitely came to my emotional and mental threshold during labor, and then they basically picked me up and carried me over it and got me all the way through the final stage so that I could give birth to my son. And I definitely cannot imagine what that whole experience would have been like without each and every one of them. If just one of them would have been missing, I don't want to know what that experience would have been like, because it was beautiful, and my son would have been born no matter what. But I don't know if I would have been able to call it beautiful and mean what I mean when I say that. So thank you guys.